Welcome to a special episode of It's Been 2 Weeks, where I will be conducting an interview with my co-host, John.
Hey.
So,
This is round two.
This is round two, basically. We have an episode, we have a part one that hopefully by this time you've already listened to.
It hasn't been released yet, has it?
No.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying, hopefully
okay.
by this time. But whenever I release this one, it should be already out. This is the part two where so the reason why I wanted to do a part two was because in the other in Pigs in a Podcast, you've talked about your work experience or your work history, better said, and there's some good stories that came from that, you know. And I just kind of wanted, like, because in the first part we mostly just focused on your upbringing and experiences that you've gone through as far as like growing up in this area and stuff like that. But we never really delved deeper into, you know, the other, like your adult life, I guess you could say, or your work experience or anything of that sort. So what is it that you currently do as far as like a career or your work?
So currently I am a plumber, I guess commercial plumber. So it'd be more like schools, hospitals, restaurants, public workplaces or works, libraries, parks, high rises, stuff like that. We do have like a residential kind of part of the company I'm with, but I haven't been a part of that.
You haven't been doing that?
No, just the other stuff.
Just to kind of like get the audience a little bit more acquainted with it. How does that work? So like you have like a more like a larger, or I guess more does it depend on like the industry?
What do you mean? Like
okay, so like there's like, so schools and, you know, maybe like libraries, you said, like those are like more so like, I guess you could say government or just like institutions that are not really like you.
It can be government. Like I know we've had company I'm with, we had a job at LAX. We've had a job at Burbank Airport. I think for a little bit they had a bit of a contract with Disney. But so stuff like that, yeah, there are the government works. But a lot of it too is just like it would be like if you were going to remodel your house or have a house built, you just kind of the investor or whatever either buys the plot of land and decide this is what they're going to build, and then they take bids from different contracting companies, or, you know, for the job. Right. Or, you know, they're going to renovate someplace, like the current situation where I'm at right now. And it's the same thing. They just accept a bid that they think is fair enough for to get the job done. Yeah. Gotcha. So it's just like you would do for a house, but on a larger scale.
Okay. Gotcha. But has your company or have previous companies that you worked for done stuff that's more like housing or?
So the company I was with before this one, I was at the tail end of it. It wasn't low income. I forgot the word they used, but it was essentially like housing for homeless. It was, I forgot, somewhere in South LA somewhere. I don't remember where, but it was there, and it was, yeah, for homeless and like addicts or something like that. And yeah, so that was that kind of situation. I don't know how they decided who got to stay there or not. We're not part of that. Like, no, I mean, like, I'm sure they would have told us if we asked, but I didn't bother asking or any of that stuff. Okay. So like that's probably the closest I've gone to that personally. But for like normal housing, no. But there are companies that just specialize in doing like, especially like the track housings, where basically they're all just cookie cutter houses looking the same, and like their goal is to plumb like 4 houses a day or whatever, and that's all they do, because it's just everything's the same setup. You know what I mean? It's like identical, just like mirrored or something, or however they design it. But it's just kind of well, even in the way we do it now, it's getting to where we get like spools, which are just like little cut sheets of like small diagrams of the certain like water or waste system. But all those pieces are like already kind of fitted together for us. So we're just putting them together to make the entire system. So it's like it's like putting a giant puzzle together. So it's kind of evolving as it goes along. Do you feel like it's been more the process has become more efficient now, or? Yes and no. Like with that system where it's called prefab. So the parts are you know, kind of prefabricated, and you go and you just kind of put it in place. And yeah, in theory it does work, and when it works, but there's sometimes where it's just like what was laid out and the stuff that you were sent and the way it's drawn is just like it just does not work. You can't, things are going to show up on a job site that you just have to, that you can't really necessarily account for all the time, but you have to just be able to adapt and to work around it, right. Or just come to some sort of agreement with another trade or something and be like, hey, can you go around this, or what is it going to take for us to be able to get through here without having to turn this way and cut through this concrete wall, and you know what I mean? It's just there's a lot of negotiations and it still goes back to like a lot of that old, they did me a favor, so here's your case of beer kind of deal. A lot of it, honestly, a lot of it is like, hey, we kind of fucked up on the roof. Can you make sure this gets done? I was like, we got you. And then they got us, and I was like, all right, let's get them some beer. Like it's one of those things. It as much as it is.
So like a lot of back scratching, basically.
Yeah,
between
there's a lot of politics.
Yeah,
and it you definitely benefit from not being a total asshole on the job site.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like in the end, all of you are working towards the same goal, and it's like you're gonna have to work with these people for however long the project lasts. So you'd want to make the best of it. I'm assuming to keep the peace there and stuff like that. So yeah, that's pretty interesting. I did construction for I want to say like 2 years, but it was like very like home construction and stuff like that. So my experience with plumbers was basically just someone that was hired by the contractor to come in and just basically work around the stuff that we had made for them and stuff like that.
That's basically how it is for us too.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The difference is like, so for new construction from the ground up, where it's just that plot of dirt, generally it's been my experience, but it's kind of what I was told going into the trade. It's like, as a plumber, more often than not, you're one of, if not the first trade in, because you got to get all your waste, the sanitary stuff underground, and then you kind of disappear. You get it ready for once the pad and the walls start going up, then you come back. But like, you're generally the first, if not one of the first on the job site, and then one of the last to leave.
Yeah.
Because there's just so much to it that you have to get done. And like, like electricians and stuff, they got to bury their stuff. But on the plumbing side, a lot of it has to do with, there's a lot of math in plumbing.
Yeah.
So like, for the sewer lines and stuff, everything has to have a grade. So the ditches we dig have to, go down at a certain slope at a certain degree for all that stuff. So it's like, we have to be in there first, because we can't risk having shit beneath us, because if we do, then we're not going to hit grade. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, the other thing too is like, if we have to meet the water supply coming in from the street, so you got to calculate, well, this is how far we have to travel. So this is where we have to start our depth from here. And this is how little we have to grade down while we're still able to meet that connection. Like it's pretty, it can get really involved, but it's, once you get it down, it's oddly like easy.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's just, it's a lot, but it's also not a lot. Like once you're used to it, it gets easier. Like anything, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, like with experience, I could see that happening. But it's so one of the things in my time of knowing you, I mostly remember the stories of your work just being like, for the most part, just like the plumbing stuff that we would talk about. And to be fair, it was very little that we talked about work in general. But recently you've introduced stories of previous work where you worked at a law firm. I don't know if you're okay with talking about that.
No, yeah, 100%.
But I think in one of the most recent episodes, well, at the time of this recording, you talked about like basically one of the dumbest reasons why you got in trouble for, and then also just like going down to like the little area in Casey's for fucking St. Patty's Day and basically getting your time card fucking fixed by was someone who did
our payroll,
the
payroll guy.
Payroll guy. Can you talk a little bit more about that experience with that?
Yeah. So that wasn't the first law firm I had worked. That was a law firm. That wasn't the first law firm I worked for. I had worked for another one, for an attorney who my mom, and I worked for him for a couple of years, and he was out in Santa Monica. It started off in downtown, and then he got an office out in Santa Monica. So I would make that, and that was like, that's when I first started like realizing, or not realizing, but just like feeling myself die a little bit every time I went home. Because no joke, from Santa Monica going home, it was, people kind of say I'm exaggerating, it was sometimes close to 4 hours. Like there was times, because he was on, I forgot what the other street was, but it was like Bundy, and I forgot what the other main street was. So the building was like right there on that corner. So and I was really close to the freeway, but there was times where it would take me 45 minutes to travel like that quarter mile, just because like we'd be sitting at that intersection to make the left turn so I can get to the freeway. But like I said, like the 30-45 minutes, just because when the lights would change, there was so much traffic, cars were not going back and forth because it was just so deadlocked. Yeah. You know what I mean? And so sometimes when cars were able to make that turn, it was like one, maybe two cars. You know what I mean?
Jesus Christ.
So it was just, it was bad. But he was cool. There was a lot of cool moments there. Nothing really to like complain about, or just, it was cool. But the big stuff though was when I ended up at the other firm, which was back in downtown. And at that time they were just in the process of moving to downtown into the Citibank building. They're moving out of Van Nuys and stuff like that. And so I got the job with them. I started off as a mail clerk. And real quick side tangent, I will say working in downtown, you get to see a lot of kind of like crazy stuff.
Mhm.
Like in my time working there, I think I seen like 4 or 5 dead bodies.
Holy shit.
All of them were on my way into work, with the exception of one. They were all what I think to be they pretty much look like suicides, because it was just a person like on the sidewalk, and you know it's cordoned off, and it's like you just kind of look at the scene and it's like they jumped. You know what I mean? Like there's, and you end up reading about him like, oh, this person jumped, and I'm like, oh, okay,
Yeah,
that's
I
where
kind
that
of
was.
already
Yeah.
knew that.
With the exception of this one where I had just parked and I was walking to the office, to the building to get to the office. And it probably had to have just happened, because by the time I got there, the bus was parked at the sidewalk already. And there's people just getting off of the bus, and some of them were just bawling and shaking uncontrollably. And I remember so I was directly across the street from my office building, and the bus that I was talking about had parked essentially catty corner from my office building, right?
Right.
So from the side, okay. So you know where the LA Public Library is in downtown? You know how across the street is the Citibank building?
Yeah.
Okay, so the crosswalk leading from the library to the Citibank building, that's where I noticed it. There is a red mark, and then that red mark, it was like someone painted it. It went from the crosswalk through the intersection, and it made that left-hand turn to where the bus went.
Holy fuck.
So the bus took out someone, and it drug them that whole time. So as I like traced that with my eyes to see like, and this is why the people were exiting the bus like crying and shit like that. So by the time I looked to where, you know, really focused to what was going on with the bus, at the end of it, like parts in the gutter and some in the street, there were remains of this lady. Like, and I guess as it was going, it just kind of tore her up.
Yeah.
And I say that because I like, and I'm no doctor, but like, it's just from the color of it, and it's gonna sound weird to say it, like the texture and just the visual of it, I'm willing to bet part of what I seen was brain, because it was not bloody and it was very light colored compared to everything else. And it just had, you know, the folds and all that.
Yeah.
And it was just amongst other things that were there. And I just went to the office and made it up to the 33rd floor, and then went to one of the corner conference rooms, and a couple of us were there just watching it. And I remember it was like an hour later or something like that, I went to go check on it. And this always stuck with me. The bus was gone, but there was a cleaning crew, and they were just like power hosing all that shit into the gutter.
Oh, God.
And I was just like, I think that's what killed me the most. I'm like, that was the person,
Yeah.
you know, like, so there's crazy stuff in downtown to see if you, not even if you know where to look. But going back to the actual office work, it was, so everything, I guess I got to say, is just my personal experiences from it.
Right.
But with other people I've talked to, it's really easy to compare working in an office environment like that to being in high school again. There's a lot of that kind of, I guess, politicking and drama and group cliques and all that stuff. And it's really funny to kind of see the tribalism that took place and stuff like that. And just there is, I know I'm kind of jumping, but there was a part too where at some point in like, I guess the history of this firm, there was a lot of females that were hired, especially like female junior attorneys that were being hired, right?
Yeah.
And they were attractive, you know, and it got to a point where I guess, I don't remember the studio that was doing it, but they were going to do, it was like a housewives kind of show.
What the fuck?
But involving attorneys. And they came to our firm to scout it out because of, I guess, the look of a lot of the female attorneys within the company and stuff like
What
that.
the
They
fuck?
turned it down, but yeah, they had talks about it and shit. But it was one of those moments where like, were you a real firm then? You know what I mean? Like, is this one of those things? But
That's just
yeah,
like,
it's one of the, yeah, it was
that's such a weird thing
Yeah,
to happen in a fucking, yeah, that's fucking wild, honestly.
I mean, like, I guess I don't know what do you want to know more or less about working there? Because like there's stories, but I don't know how candid you want me to get. I can get.
Truthfully, whatever you're willing to safely disclose without getting in trouble, because quite frankly, like this is like talking about your previous employment is something,
Okay.
especially in something like this can be.
So they were essentially ambulance chasers. They were the plaintiff's firm.
Uh-huh.
So like they would, one of the cases they had was people trying to sue over their kids developing autism because of vaccine.
Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Shit
Yeah.
like that. One of them was, I think Moderna.
Well, that's one of them, but
Yeah, I think we had some sort of case against them. Pfizer was a case we had against
Pfizer.
yeah, I think that had to do with the vaccine. I don't remember. I honestly don't remember the specifics of some of the cases. but it was a lot of like ambulance chasing kind of stuff like that. We also did like employment law, so like wage theft and stuff like that. But some of the stuff, like when you think like those kind of firms, it holds up. You know what I mean? Like one of the cases we did was for during Katrina, one of the levees ended up giving because there was a barge that became untethered or something like that. It wasn't I guess tethered right to its wherever you tether shit like that. So it floated down and then broke through a levee and caused flooding and stuff like that. So we were representing people affected by that. But it's kind of weird because like there was a map we were given and only addresses within that map fall within, you know, our coverage. So when people would call to try to see if they're part of it, we're like, you don't fall within this, you know, within this map and stuff. They're like, how do you, and I agree with them. They're like, but the water didn't stop at those maps. You know what I mean? Like, how do you like, how is it you're drawing the line here, but when the result of this still affected way, you know what I mean? It's just little shit like that, like,
do you know how that map was drawn, or do you have,
I don't know.
You don't have any idea?
No, I don't know if any of us would have known, because it wasn't just us. Like we were partnered with other firms for that. So I don't know how those maps were drawn.
Drawn. I wonder if it was maybe like one of those instances where it's like the company that was getting sued is like, yeah, this is as far as you.
Yeah. It's stuff like that would come up that was like really interesting, but it's just, after talking to those people, I kind of like lost the taste to look more into it, because I'm like, I'm hearing these people tell me their stories about like losing everything, and then I have to be like, yeah, actually we can't help you. You know what I mean? Like, sorry, it's like it's
pretty fucked up.
It does take a toll on you. You know what I mean? Like, and this isn't to be like, oh, woe is me, because this is not what it is. But it's like, you're like, wow, this system's like really like there is like no, there is kind of like no, it's almost like, how fucked do I have to get to actually get help? You know what I mean? Like, just because I was in your eyes not fucked as hard as this person, I'm not entitled to help and stuff like that. So there's some of the stories that, you know, people would tell us like, yeah, I was stuck in my attic for, you know, X amount of days before people came to help. And it's like,
me, dude.
Yeah, dude. It was like, and we would get like kind of in trouble for, you know, being on the phone for like an hour. Sometimes like there were sometimes these were like people like in their 70s, 80s and shit, right? And I'd be on the phone with them for like an hour or whatever. And then like, you know, I end up missing lunch and shit. But it's like, these people literally have no one to fucking talk to. You know what I mean? And it's like, and like you would feel for them because like they're telling you this shit, and like some of them are crying and something. And it's like, I get that work has to be done, but like, I don't know, maybe I just wasn't cut out for that. Cause I can't be like, all right, well, I'm sorry that happened to you, but I need to go. You know, like I need
to move on.
Yeah. And it wasn't just me. It's just, it's like, you know, like it leaves you feeling kind of like
a piece of shit.
No, not like a piece of shit. Just like helpless. Like, cause you're like, you have these people just like kind of opening themselves up and just talking about like this really fucked up situation in their life, and there's like they're kind of coming to you like to see if you can help, and you're like, all right, there's nothing I can do. You know what I mean? Like, and you have to give it with this kind of, you're expected to just separate from that. And you don't. It's not that easy, you know, especially when it's call after call after call with similar stories, some worse, some not as bad, but it's not just like the Katrina stuff. It was like some of the stuff with I think one of them was Chantix. I think was Chantix something to stop smoking.
I don't know. It sounds familiar, but I can't.
There was one. I think if I remember correctly, it was to like stop smoking. But some of the side effects was like, maybe it wasn't the smoking one. It's been
Chantix was medicine to designed to aid in smoke cessation.
Okay, if I don't remember if that's the one with the side effects where it was like vivid and disturbing dreams and like all this kind of other stuff. And I remember this one lady, she called in. She was a nurse. And she, I think it, like I said, if it was Chantix that she was on, and she was experiencing like those thoughts and stuff like that. And she had a kid, and she kept telling me she kept having thoughts about hurting the kid. So she became worried, and I think I don't even know if I should be saying this, but long story short, she sent the kid to like a relative for the night, and that night she tried to off herself to keep the kid safe.
Holy shit.
You know, so like it's just stories like that I would hear, you know what I mean? And I'm like, I gotta type all this shit out and be like as clinical as possible. And I'm like, God damn it, lady, like, you know. And then I'd have to type and then be like, okay, give me 1 second, and be like, I just fucking typed this shit out, like I need to process it, you know, stuff like that. And to lesser extremes, you know, I had women calling in. I forgot what the thing was, but it had to do with some sort of birth control or something like that was fucking them up somehow. And I have this lady talking about like her uterine problems and shit now, and I'm like, I know this has to suck for you. I'm sorry, like asking you, but it's like you're in these weird positions where it's like you have to be, you're kind of having these like real, like legit human moments with these people. You know what I mean? In this weird setting where you're just supposed to be like matter of fact with it. And I don't, like I said, maybe it just wasn't for me, but it was kind of.
It's also kind of weird that they're putting you in situations where you have to act like almost like a nurse or something like that.
Well, we did have a nurse.
Oh, you did?
We did have like 2 nurses and stuff, but that's why they were telling us, and we would take all this information down and submit it to them to review to see if they would qualify for those cases. So that's how that worked.
Okay.
But they still, like we still had to get all that information down and stuff like that. But it's like, and then, if they do get through the process, then it's just repeating the story over and over and over for them, different parties. But like, it was like it was kind of, I don't want to say surreal but like, it was just, it was a very different experience. Like looking back at it now.
Yeah.
Like at the time or whatever, like at the time, it hit me, but not probably the way it does now, because at that time, like there was a lot of drinking going on with me. So,
yeah.
But yeah, it was,
you think it was a consequence of the job?
Not that particular part of the job, but just accumulative. It was an accumulation of things throughout working there that just piled. Like I said, like I told you outside, at one point at our height, we were like a little bit over 100 employees. And then within a matter of days, we had lost more than 50% of our staff. You know what I mean? From a layoff. It was like, what I say, it was like 60, 70 some odd people that they got rid of in a day. It was just like no work got done that day.
Yeah.
It was just, you would hear someone's phone go off and like, hey, can you report to so-and-so's off? Hey, can you go report? Or you'd get the email or whatever, and usually people get up, come back, get shit, and they're gone. And that's how it was throughout the whole day that day. Like no one, like they, obviously we were expected to work, but no one said anything about, nothing, because they knew. And it was like that kind of for like the week after that, where it was just, not that there was no morale. You know what I mean? Like you decimated like everyone. You decimated your staff and shit. And like at this point, everyone grew close. You know what I mean? Like you had like legitimate friends. We'd go out, drink and stuff like that, either during lunch or happy hours and stuff. Like you got to know these people, and it's like, and it's all through like mismanagement of your money, for, I don't know the specifics of it. I can guess, I won't, but I can probably say some degree of maybe confidence that it was, it was just misallocated for personal gain and
personal
stuff like
gains
that.
and stuff like that.
And I think that there was obviously there had to be fraud, because there is paperwork and documentation showing that there was fraud with, at least one of the partners and stuff like that, who the last I remember had his license revoked and stuff like that. So what's come of it now, I don't know, but it was, like I said, bad enough to where by the time this was already after I was gone, that place just did not last. I don't know how much longer it did, but it did not last that much longer.
Damn, that's crazy. It's crazy. I mean, like, to imagine to end up in the fucking in that building and then just disappear.
Yeah,
it's
like I said. So it was a little bit over 100 employees. We had the entirety of the 33rd floor, and they had done renovations to the 33rd floor to essentially like double the amount of cubicles to account, to make room for all these other people. And then we rented out about half of the 18th floor, right? And then so by the time all that was done, we had no more use for the 18th floor. Everyone was able to go back up to the 33rd floor. That's how many people were gone.
That is, damn, that's crazy. I mean, like, you never like, what is it I was gonna say? You kind of like, it's just incredible how something like that can happen so fast too. You get me?
Within like a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy. How did you land that job?
Again, basically through my mom. Like I said, I had done the law firm thing a little bit before with another attorney, and then after that, I was doing some school and some other just kind of random work. And then, like I said, that firm was moving from Van Nuys to downtown, and they were hiring because they were moving to the bigger space and stuff like that. So through people my mom knew at work, they knew of this place and they were hiring, like, oh, just apply. So I did. And I don't know if it's nepotism, but because of, I guess, kind of a good word that was put in for me, I got the job and stuff. And like I put in work from, I'm not going to try to like fucking hype myself up, but like I kind of taught myself how to fix the copiers and all that shit. Cause you know, it's not that I needed to do it, but I felt like I needed to like make myself valuable. And I did for quite a long time, to where like, so there was a dress code. I did not follow it. Like I wore the button up and all that stuff, but I never tucked in my shirt or any, because my argument was like, yes, I can do that. But a lot of the times I'm like either fucking under a desk, setting up a computer, or doing this other shit, or moving boxes, or like, again, just kind of like crawling around, crouching down, fucking behind copiers. I'm like, I just want to be comfortable while I do that. Like, so just, and they never give a shit. I had long ass fucking hair. I kept it comb and shit. But then no one, they're like, we don't care what the fuck you look like, as you know, because I was just doing my shit.
Yeah.
And I dude, I was, bro, I was like a fucking, you know how I said it was like high school?
Yeah.
Well, I was like the fucking class clown. Like
Good
I
God.
was just, but you know, I wasn't like cruel or anything, so that everyone just kind of tolerated it. But it was, so when I first got there, one of the partners was doing the hiring. We didn't have like a dedicated HR guy, and since he was doing the hiring, that's how we ended up with so many young, attractive attorneys, female attorneys, and not just attorneys, but like receptionists and assistants, stuff like that. Not all of them, but a good chunk of. And then some stuff went down between him and a receptionist who was hired on as the receptionist but became his personal assistant, because his personal assistant at the time was on maternity leave, going to go to maternity leave. So some inappropriate behavior went down between them.
Oh shit.
So he was removed from that position, and I think eventually he was removed from the firm. I don't really remember now if that's why. And there was a little bit of a spinoff to that because of that. If I remember correctly, I don't know if it's a rumor, because it was told with a good amount of certainty, but so apparently their little tryst landed him with an STI, which he passed on to his wife, which she passed on to the main partner in that firm, which just caused this big line. You know what I mean? So
It's a fucking epidemic that happened in the office.
It was that kind of environment, right? So when he was removed from that position and essentially just the firm, we got the new HR guy, which with the story, the homie story, right?
Which I'll have you retell that story later on.
Okay.
But yeah.
So when he came in, he was a older gentleman, gay man. And again, that's important because when he came in, it was like basically the inverse of the first time, where instead of these young, attractive women, it's these young, attractive dudes, gay dudes. And this isn't like, look, my supervisor in the call center, he was a legitimate model. You know what I mean? Like, I'll remind me and we'll look him up. He was a legitimate model. Like,
what the fuck?
I can't even sit here and just like fucking like hate him. Like, you were a model, bro. Like, you were fucking good. Like, those were the kind of like people he hired.
Holy
you know what
shit.
I mean? So it wasn't necessarily like, yes, there was qualifications, but they weren't all qualified, is what I'm trying to say. But it didn't like, it affected the office in the sense that like, yeah, maybe these people shouldn't be here because they're making it a little bit more difficult in terms of like workload for some people.
Right.
But everyone was like chill. You know what I mean? Like it was a fun environment for the most part. There was, like I said, cliques and stuff like that. And I don't know how to describe it without sounding sexist. But I don't know. Again, high school. It was just this group of girls didn't get along with this girls because of this.
Oh,
you know what I mean? Like
that sort of stuff.
I don't know how else to describe it, but like that's what I mean. And it was kind of like that with the dudes, but because of I don't know. It was just it was a weird kind of dynamic sometimes, or like environment. You know what I mean? Like I never had issue. Like I had my issues with individual people,
right?
But like as a whole, I would hang out with like different groups of people that just didn't get along with each other. And I was like, I don't give a fuck about your beef. You know what I mean? Like I'm just here to drink or eat or whatever we were doing at the time. So like just don't include me with that shit.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Like a lot of people were chill with that. You know what I mean? Like it wasn't crazy. It was just exhausting in the sense of just like office politics and stuff like that, and just hearing this is why I don't like this person. Oh, like, oh damn, that's crazy. Like, yeah, they kind of seem like a bitch. And then like the next day you're hearing the other side of him, like, wow, they do seem like, you know what I mean? It's like you kind of, I don't know, at least for me, I'm like, wow, just everyone here's a bitch apparently.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
Because it's you know, like, and I'll stop bashing stuff, but so okay, like I said, I got really into drinking there, and a lot of it was just because it was that whole office space, that 9 to 5 shit, you know, it takes your toll and stuff. And I remember this one day, not proud of it. It's funny. Well, it's not even, whatever. I went into work and I don't remember why I had it with me, but I had a half bottle of vodka with me. So I was driving into work and I was drinking it. And by the time I got there, it was almost done. I had like maybe about a quarter of it left. So I got to work just fucked up already. And one of the junior attorneys, she see me and she's like, "Are you drunk?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I was really fucked up. Like I was like super fucked up. And she was like, "Okay, you need to just go to your desk or whatever." And I'm like, "All right, cool." So I was making my way to my desk and I was like, I stop and I started walking the opposite direction. She's like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I have to go throw up." So I went to start throwing up and I was throwing up in the bathroom and I came out. She's like, "Okay, you need to go somewhere." So she takes me, we go downstairs and I don't know if it's still there, but downstairs there was like a sushi place. And then there was also a Carl's. So we went to the Carl's Jr. She got me a Famous Star or whatever. We went back up to her office and she took me in her office. She closed the door. She's like, "You're going to stay here till you sober up. Eat the fucking cheeseburger." So I ate the cheeseburger. And then, so I was just sitting on her chair and I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I had to have been like either rocking back and forth or bouncing around. She's like, "You need to just stop being drunk." Like, because evidently I was acting very drunk, not like in an obnoxious way, but like I became very aware that she was trying to take care of me. And I was just doing everything I can to like be annoying at that point.
Oh my God.
So one point someone knocked on the door and it was a senior attorney and she's like, "You need to hide." So I go kind of behind her and her desk and I just kind of crouch there and they come in, they talk and they don't see me, right? So they close the door again and then there's another knock and she's like, "Oh, just stay there." So it's another junior attorney comes in and it's her friend. So they're talking or whatever. And she has like a cut on her hand. And then she asks for, the attorney that's like hiding me, "Do you have a Band-Aid?" And I pop up and I'm like, "What happened to your finger?" And she's like, "Oh my God, where did you come from?" And I'm like, "Oh, she's hiding me because I'm drunk." And I'm like looking at her finger. I'm like, "Oh, that's really bad." So they get out the Band-Aid and stuff. And I'm like, wait, I want to do it. So for like 3 minutes, she's holding her finger there when I'm trying to focus to get this little Band-Aid on her on her fucking finger. And God bless her because she let me do it and I just did the thing. And then, they had their interaction and she's like, "Just sit in the corner of my room." And then I just kind of like curled up in the corner and I fell asleep for like an hour. And then I woke up and then had some water and I was pretty sober enough to get through the rest of the day on my own.
Right.
But it was just, like moments like that where it was just like, cool. Like just fucking, there was times where sometimes some attorneys needed to come on the weekend and, a lot of it was like a lot of copying or scanning had to be done, just shit. And they'd be like, "Hey, would you be willing to work?" Yeah, whatever. And there was this one attorney who asked me and I had been sick that week and I was still sick. So I was just going to be like, just rest on the weekend. But she was really cool. I liked her. She asked me and I'm like, "Yeah, I guess I could come." Like, if you're still really sick, whatever, like, don't worry about it. I'm like, "Tell you what, just do me this favor, bring me this in the morning and I'll fucking power through and we'll get whatever you need." I told her to bring me orange juice, just like a gallon of orange. She's like, "Okay." So I did, but I also brought a bottle of vodka. She's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "It's so I can sweat this shit out." And she's like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah." And I wasn't drunk. I was just getting, and did it help fix me up.
Oh my God.
But it was just, and like, yeah, it was just, because that's the other thing. Attorneys, two things about attorneys. A lot of them are the smartest dumb people you'll ever meet. Like brilliant in terms of the law and other stuff, but common sense and a lot of that stuff out the window. Like a lot of them could not get down how to swap out their printer, their ink cartridges and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Oh my God.
Like, and look, I'm not a PC person, but like it's all kind of color coded. You know what I mean? Like sometimes they kick something out and like, "I don't know what's wrong." It's like, "Oh, it was literally just your power cord." You know what I mean? Just kind of stuff like that. But I guess, I guess some stuff's got to go when you just got to remember all this other shit. But
It's like fucking Kelly from fucking
yeah,
where like
one thing in, the other thing comes out. But yeah, and the other thing is alcoholics, basically just all functioning alcoholics.
Jesus Christ.
They're all fucking drinkers and stuff, and that's what we did a lot. We would drink and stuff like that. I didn't tell this part of the story on pigs. When I was let go and the security was walking, I told the HR guy.
Hold on, before you even start that, do you want to tell that story in its entirety here? Because I like.
Yeah, if you want me to,
Yeah,
I
go
will.
for it, go
Okay,
ahead.
so
you can start with the other one too if you want to talk about like this
you want me to do
relationship.
the homie story?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So
And just to let everybody know, this is not the reason why he got fired.
no,
Like,
no.
This is just a.
So, and this is just going to be the very like, there's not going to be dressing like in the other one. The first time I told it. So this is a new HR or the proper HR guy we got who was gay, and I'm going to skip the manhunter part because I don't. So he was openly gay, not a problem. Like we had our differences in like views, and when I say like I know I said he's gay and not a problem, and then we had different. My problem with him was like, so he was supposedly very like anti-capitalism and all that, but he was the type of person where he would be preaching his anti-capitalism while he's like clutching his iPad, like choking down like Starbucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, what are you doing here, bro?
Yeah,
like
yeah.
you have everything capitalistic on you, but you know what I mean? So that was my kind of deal with him. Long story short, I had seen him, this particular day, and we had our normal interaction, and like we would have our run-ins, but it was mostly, like I said, because of me like pranking or just messing with people or, just shenanigans, stuff like that. So usually when stuff would go wrong in the office, I was always the main one. But it was funny because like 9 times out of 10, when it got to back to him and he would come to me, and I was like, that wasn't me. And yeah, 9 times out of 10, it was someone else, but because that was my own fault for, so I don't blame him for that, but it was just kind of funny. Anyways, so we had our interaction, and later on in that day, he calls a meeting, and he says it's about like tolerance because something was said to him that day that was unacceptable and blah 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 blah, and he felt it was said because of his sexual preference and this and that. And as he was going on, it was me and just the other employees, not like the main attorneys or some of the junior attorneys and the other, some of the lower, like I guess level employees and stuff. And as he kept going on, I was like, I think he's talking about me. So I asked him, and he kind of danced around a little bit. And I'm like, no, we're here, we're adults. What was it? And so after some prodding, his claim was that I had used a slur, right? So after some prodding, he came clean with the slur I called him, which was, and if you guys don't know, I'm Hispanic, right? I thought I had called him this before. I guess not. But this day I called him homie, and to his credit, I can see how, yes, I can understand maybe the confusion, but I called him homie, and he thought that was like some sort of homophobic slur that I called him. And that was the whole point of that meeting and stuff. But I'm like, all this bluster, dude. And like, you could have just come to me one-on-one and be like, why not just come to me? You know what I mean? Like, because now you just make yourself look like a jackass. And now I'm just kind of like legit, not even mad at you, just kind of like over you. You know what I mean? Like, you just killed it. Like, you just killed whatever good vibes and intentions and will that was there. Like it really puts a wedge in the relationship that you guys had. Even if I never changed toward them after that, but it wasn't the same. You know? And I was like, and I guess it was the part too where everyone was like, no, that means like you guys are like, he's basically calling you his friend. You know what I mean? Like, which I thought we were cool. You know what I mean? Like we would have drinks sometimes. Like, So whatever. That was like whatever. But fast forward, I think it was like a year or two after that, maybe year and a half, something like that, to when I was let go. He calls me into his office, and I remember it was around 3 o'clock, maybe a little bit before 3 o'clock, and it was obviously after lunch. And I remember after lunch, it was just weird. It felt weird in our little corral for the call center. By this time, you said that it was like it was on like very little left, right? Yeah, this was after the mass firing and stuff like that, and just the vibe in the office in general was just it never really recovered after that. It did a little bit, but at this point, I don't think the firm was doing that great anymore. So I was at my desk, and I think I got a call from reception, or if it was an email, I don't remember. But whatever it was, I got up, and I remember my supervisor's like, what happened? And I'm like, oh, I got to go talk to so-and-so, the HR. And she's like, oh, what did you do? And like the way and we were cool. Like her and I were cool. We hung out, we've been to her house and stuff. But like the way she said it, I'm like, I already knew. Cause like the way she said it, she obviously had to have known because she was my supervisor. So like the way, like her tone and everything, I'm like, oh, okay, I know what's happening. So I went in his office, we sat down, he did his little monologue and stuff. And I was like, all right, cool, whatever. And he even told me, he's like, I wasn't expecting you to take it this well. I'm like, bro, like no one's happy here. You know what I mean? Like I'm not happy here. Like it's just, it is what it is. It's like, yeah, it sucks to not have a job, but it's also like a nice little sweet relief or whatever. And so he gave me the paperwork to sign or whatever, for my release and all that. And I look it over and I'm like, cool. I hand it back to him. He's like, you're not going to sign? I'm like, no, because it's not my paper. It was for the attorney that they were planning to get rid of, I guess, either after me or the next day or whatever. So he just gives me this look, and I'm like, I'm not going to tell him, dude. Just give me my shit so I can get out of here. So we sorted out. I wonder if you could have negotiated your way out of that one, actually, to keep your position. I'm not going to. There was no will or desire to keep that.
No, I get that.
But and yeah, and his thing too was like, just I'm like, one, yeah, that desire to like be like, oh, they're gonna he fucked up and he gave me this paper, but that's someone else's job, and I'm not gonna, you know what I mean? Like I'm not gonna fuck around with someone like that.
Yeah.
So whatever. So after all that's done, I get up to leave his office, open the door, and there's security there. So I look back at him, so I look back at him and I'm like, seriously, dude? And he's like, I was told to have him here just in case. What, man? Like whatever. It was like, just don't touch me. I'm not going to do anything. So I was going to walk back to my desk to get some shit. And they were like, no, you got to go. And I'm like, dude, I looked to the HR. I'm like, I got shit at my desk, bro. Like, right. And that's when he told me, like, leave him alone, let him go get his stuff. So I went. And the only thing I went I had some pictures and shit. It wasn't anything like crazy. But in my bottom drawer is where I had like a lot of my good stuff. So I remember, when I came back into that office, it was a conference room, and they turned into like an office with like 6 cubicles, which turned into the call center. So I went in there, and the 2 girls that I work with, one of them was a supervisor, because they already like, what happened? I'm like, and like I can't talk anyway. So I go on, I open it, and I tell them what was in the drawer, and then like I go, you guys have first dibs. And then when I walk out, there's more cubicles. I'm like, so I got I got Italian dressing in my bottom drawer. Any of you guys want it, it's yours. And first come, first serve on this one. There's a half bottle of Jack Daniels. It goes to whoever wants it. And there's some others like random condiments and shit. I'm like, because I didn't want it, so I just went. And they're trying to escort me to the elevator again, but they're trying to take me like this other direction was a little bit faster. I'm like, no, I'm gonna walk this way, because this is where the majority of the people I hung out with and talked to.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was going, some of the attorneys already were like, they had already known what was happening. So as I was walking by, one of them, the one that helped me when I was drunk, she was at her door and she was already crying because she had knew. So she came out and she hugged me and she was like, what are you going to do? I'm like, I don't know, I guess go home. And then she was like, no, go to this spot that we always go to, and we'll go and we'll hang out after that. So that's what I ended up doing. And it was fun. And my regret is I drove home after that, which I should not have.
No.
The only saving grace, which is no excuse, but we left so late, and I was on the freeway, but we left so late that there was like almost no one on the freeway. It was like close to like, it was past 1.
Yeah.
So, but I should not have done that.
Absolutely
I admit
not.
to that. I should not have done that, but whatever. But the kind of crazy part was I found out later on the next day that because of the way, I guess, it works, the attorney scene or whatever, the law firm scene, they all kind of like talk, I guess. And so it's all information travels quick. So I came to find out that my mom, who works at a completely different firm, so our firm was like in the financial district.
Mm-hmm.
Where she was at the time was more towards the Staples Center. So almost on the opposite end of downtown.
Oh, shit.
She knew the day before I was getting fired, before I got fired.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because of, I guess, whoever made the decision at our firm, someone had said something and it found its way
like fucking
to
wildfire,
someone in
basically.
that.
Yeah.
And so she knew. So it was like, a lot of people knew what was going to happen to a bunch of us, or like at least me, before I knew. But it was kind of funny. I was like, damn, bro. Like everyone just like fucking just watch me go to the gallows and shit. Like my only butthurt thing was like, you just told me, I would have fucking not gone into work or something.
Yeah, that's the other thing too.
But it was like, I do remember telling the HR guy, I was like, dude, why did you have to do this so late? Like you should have just done it. You should have done it in the beginning. On, bro. Why are you trying to get your 4 hours of work out of me? Come on,
you know
man.
what though? Actually, now that this recently happened to me. So like I at the last place that I worked at, when they let me go, they had me work the full fucking day. And it's like, at this point, like, you should have just fucking let me go from the beginning.
Yeah.
You get me? Like, why the fuck are you doing this bullshit?
And you know what though? I don't know, maybe it is a payroll thing.
I mean, I've worked at other places where like, even the like, I've mentioned the place that the what is it, the high end place that I used to work at, and all that stuff. I quit. I put my 2 weeks notice. When it came to that day that I was quitting, after lunch, the manager at the time called me in. He's like, "Here's your last check," and he's like, "You can go if you want."
Oh, that's crazy.
I didn't have to stay the whole thing.
That's
I was
crazy.
like, "Fuck it, I'm leaving. Like, I'm gone." You get me? And that's exactly what I did. And then like other places too, like even like at the place that I worked with Benji, literally in the morning, in the beginning, they just rounded everyone up, and then one by one, everyone was being let go. You get me? So like, there wasn't any. I think people who still hold on to that whole like I'm paying you so you might as well be here and do the
Yeah.
work. And this is like bullshit. Like dude, at that point just get rid of them in the morning. Avoid yourself paying them the fucking full day and stuff like that. You
Yeah.
get me? Because like if you come into the work and tell you don't clock in or anything of that sort, then there you go.
Yeah.
You get me? Like you like
Well, my thing is like, okay, especially like I don't know, man. Like
it's such a deceit, like a huge deception to make someone feel comfortable.
yeah,
You get me?
it's a very unnecessary, like kind of petty fuck you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Which is pretty fucked up. And I think I don't know if maybe it's studied or maybe managerial people think that this is the best way to handle it for in order to avoid a backlash or something like that. But I don't know. I feel like it's the deception of like making them feel comfortable that they're gonna be
Yeah,
you know what I
like
mean?
that's what I was gonna say. Like it like it's kind of fucked up. You're going through like, you know, you're halfway through your day, and then all of a sudden,
Bye.
you know what I mean. You're like,
and it happens
yeah,
so abrupt too. You
yeah,
get me?
that's kind of fucked up. I
that's
never
very-
really thought about that.
That's
like,
very fucked up, dude. But yeah, like that's fucking crazy, dog. I don't know much about the whole fucking like office space scene because I've never worked in an office. I think the closest that I got to it was when I was working at that other company where I worked with Benji, where I was like stuck doing more clerical work after doing the warehouse stuff that I would do. But like on a grand scale like that, I've never experienced that, and I never even heard stories of it either. But what was your thoughts after that? Like, did you think about going back into another firm or going back into another office space, or what? Because I mean, obviously, from working in a law firm or an office space to what you do now, like something must have changed. You get me?
So like I guess it depends for the person and the position they have, but like for stuff like the position I started in, like the mailroom, like
Mhm.
you don't take that job because it's going to be your career. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Like unless there's like it's a massive either firm or corporate or whatever, and like it's its own department and you're ahead of it, and it has like a managerial kind of system like that. But even like the call center thing, like, yeah, I guess you can make that like your career like throughout it, but like you're only gonna go so far and make so much. You know what I mean? Like your raises and all that are gonna only creep up.
They're capped.
Yeah, you know, it's only gonna go up. So it's a lot of those people seem to either be, this is something I'm doing while I'm in school,
Yeah.
this is something because I want to get into law, or this is just a job in between something else. You know what I mean? And at the time for me it wasn't, but it wasn't my end all be all. You know, like
Right.
there was I was eventually gonna leave
Mm-hmm.
at some point, but you know, it's and you know what though? I like I said, it's a case by case basis because my mom's been at the same firm for fucking ever, you know, and a lot of the people that are working there have been there forever. For fuck's sake, my aunt and one of my cousins are working there now. It's like become a very fucking like big old family affair, but it's because of the work environment and the attorneys there and like the main partner there. Like he legit, like he hasn't retired yet because he wants to make sure that people will have enough in their retirement. Like that's why he keeps going, you know, like he's like in his fucking 80s or some shit now. Like the dude has every right. Like and I say this because like I said, he's known me since I was a child. Well, not like I said, but I told you this outside. So he was at my fucking high school graduation. You know what I mean? Like he's as much as invested in like everyone there personally as they are with the work.
With the business.
So for something like that, yeah, I can see how it is, and their pay has gone up with, you know, so it's feasible for them for that to be their career.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I get, like I said, I guess it's just a case by case basis depending on not just the law firm if that's your thing, but just whatever business or corporation you're in. You know what I mean?
Right.
But yeah, it's just, and I think I just got stuck in that because I don't want to say because of my mom, but because I had that opportunity through my, you know what I mean? And that's just where I happened to land.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
and it's easier to do something like that because there is no real like qualifications or real big gateway to get through it into something like that, especially like on the entry level, like a file clerk or some shit like that, you know.
But at the time, you weren't thinking about expanding into that sort of field or anything.
I had, again, kind of growing up around lawyers, I had never really any desire to be a lawyer. It never appealed to me.
Okay.
Like it seemed fun, but I would not for me. No.
So you lose your job. I'm assuming you end up going through a rut in between.
Oh yeah, there was a good rut. But also I lost it. I think it was like 2009. So it was still during that time after 2008 where not very many people were able to get jobs. And yeah.
Wait, let me interrupt you. When you were working at this law firm, were you living in LA?
No.
In downtown? No?
No, not at the time. No.
Okay.
So yeah, after I was like, go from there, just kind of in the same boat as everyone else at the time. No one was really hiring, and then everyone was looking for work. And then the places I would hire, because the two places before were law firms, it was that immediate overqualified. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like even like low level things that I would try, it was like listing firms before that, the assumption of just your pay back then versus what like it was hard to find something. So there was a long time where I wasn't working, and then I started going back to school, and then time just fucking kind of gets away from you, and then it goes back to eventually my grandma started getting sicker, and then it was one of those, well, I'm not working now, so she needs to be taken care of, so that's what I stepped to do. And then got to a point where like I've been able to keep myself fed and all that stuff, obviously with the help of family and shit like that, but like just through other stuff. And it got to a point where like, okay, my grandma seems fairly okay enough, and it's like it's about time where I need some sort of employment. So, and I was looking for jobs, but it still kind of went back to the same thing where it was like you're overqualified for this. Like even trying to like at grocery stores, just like stocking and stuff, just anything for an income, and it was just like, oh, overqualified, or just seeing stuff like that. Well, this is a very labor intensive job. I'm like, I can do labor just because I wasn't in an office, you know what I mean? Just shit like that. But and then so the plumbing thing was just because there was no real requirement for entry. You can pass these like basic reading, writing, arithmetic tests. You can get in this program and then you know what I mean? So it was a very easy low bar for entry on on that front. And that's kind of how I ended up in that. I was just informed of this potential opportunity, and I was like, well, I got nothing else, kind of only stuff to gain at this point. That's what I opted to do.
Okay. Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. So as far as like, is there anything that, as far as like plumbing stories that you have that are similar to what you experienced in the?
Well, there was a job where, and I don't have a lot of details because I didn't see it happen, but the job stopped for like about an hour and a half, almost 2 hours, because it was like a gymnasium we're kind of doing in a park. It was going to be like a activity center / rec area with a gym, like basketball court gym thing, like enclosed with a roof. So they're putting up the like the beams for the roof and stuff, right?
Right.
So they had a crane, and I guess one of the guys kind of directing the crane as it was bringing the beam down wasn't paying enough attention, because from what we were told was he was holding on to the cable, which is the winch, where it lowers and raises, and he was holding on to it, not paying attention, and it went down into that gear part where it just rotates, so the rest of the cable goes up. You know how it just makes a loop?
Oh shit.
So it took his thumb, because we didn't know it until we started hearing all these ambulances and stuff, and it became a big thing because no one had the proper first aid and blah 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 blah. So like they couldn't really ice it and like stop the bleeding properly, and it was this whole fucking debacle. Apparently they were able to reattach it, and he was back like a month later or some shit like that. But so stuff like that does happen if you're not careful. That same job, there was this weird bee infestation where like in one of the back rooms, like this swarm of bees decided to like use that as their rest stop between migrating, looking for hives. And it was probably a room about like the dimensions of the closet. And there was something that we had to get in there, and it was something that could have waited for the next day or whatever, or until the bees were cleared out. But apparently it had to be done, and not just on our side, but like other trades and stuff too. And they told me, it's like, we need you to do this. I'm like, well, what about the bees? And they're like, just don't get stung. Like that was the thing. I'm like, all right. But I do remember,
just tell them really nicely not to sting you.
I do remember seeing something about like bees being attracted to like carbon monoxide or whatever, or dioxide. What's the shit you breathe out? Carbon dioxide, right?
Dioxide, I think. Yeah.
So I went in there and I just held my breath like at little intervals, so they would see me going in and out, right? And they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, I don't know. I just heard supposedly like they're really attracted to carbon monoxide. So I'm just holding my breath and doing little at a time. And they're like, all right, fucking weirdo. So I finished it. And then I don't know. The story was I was never bothered by so hold your breath around bees.
Hold your breath around bees.
But it's just,
I think it's the heat too, no?
Well, yeah, body heat and stuff like that. Especially like the sweating and all that stuff. But there's just, the stories like that, I'm trying to think of.
Surely there's been altercations between you and foremen.
Well, since you mentioned it, So okay, there's this one foreman.
It's up to you whether you want to talk about it.
I know. I was thinking about saying it, but I was like, I won't say it, but I'll say okay. So there's this one foreman at the company I worked with prior to this. And from like day one, him and I just didn't see eye to eye. I'm not sure what the issue was. On my end, he was the kind of guy who didn't want to work, but had no problem just working other people fucking like hard and shit like that. And he, not to say that he didn't know anything, but he thought he knew more than he did. So there was a job where it was in El Monte and they needed people that lived within a certain distance from there. And at the time I was living in Pico, so my zip code fell within that. So I was at that job and I was one of the people that they needed there at that job. So we're doing our work there and there was a lot of digging and stuff like that. And it was in the summer, which most of the time it is. So generally tensions are going to kind of be high because, you know, you're just tired and all this shit and it's hot. And 9 times out of 10, he was just in his work truck with the AC, which whatever, I guess, you know, if you're made it as a foreman, I guess you earned that, right? I'm not here to, my thing is don't, you know, fucking hassle everyone else who's out in the sun doing it. But so there's this one morning and throughout all this, him and I have been butting heads throughout other jobs and stuff. Not entirely, not crazy, but just, you know, there's been some, like I said,
disagreements.
Yeah.
Okay.
But there was a point where he needed to get his certification, his journeyman card. And so I had a lot of the paperwork for it because I had done it already and I had the code book and all that, which he didn't have it. So I told him, I was like, I have this stuff. I gave it to him. I was like, go over it before you're, you know, study it for the test. And I go, these 3 different diagrams are literally the diagrams on the test. So at the very least, all you have to do is just memorize these because the way the test is set up, it's 100 points. And you're doing it off of 25 points are off of book related stuff. So bookwork from your code book. Then the other 375%, it's set up 25% for it's a process called sizing, which determines the size of the pipes going through the building or whatever to service stuff. So it goes for gas, water, and then the waste and vent, right? So each of those are 25%. So in theory, if you get 100% or if you pass all of those, you can completely fail the book test because that's 75. Those 3 are 75% of your grade. So you can focus 100% of your efforts and just botch that and still pass.
Yeah.
So all that stuff, literally, because it was from the work we were given to prepare for that test to what showed up on the test was literally the stuff we had been doing over and over and over again. So a lot of it was just kind of muscle memory for us. And we're like, okay, we remember the answers for this and this and this. So that's why I told him, all you have to do is memorize this shit to the best of your ability. So and it wasn't just me, it was other people that helped him out. He didn't end up passing or whatever, but that's not the point. So we're at this job. And at this job already, stuff had kind of been boiling over because so we're getting all kinds of concrete and shit shipped there. And one of the days they dropped off a pallet of concrete and he had to unload it from the truck. And we had like a little skid steer, like the little Bobcat kind of dirt movers and stuff. And you can swap out either from the bucket to have like the forklift forks and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So he did that and he took off the pallet from the truck and the truck drove off. But he left it like right in the center of the driveway to get to behind. This was an elementary school, to get behind the buildings and the bungalows to where the majority of the work was, right? And another foreman was going to leave, but he couldn't because that thing concrete was, and I happened to be there doing something else. And he's like, hey, do you know whose concrete this is? I'm like, I'm sorry, it's ours. So I started moving it by hand, right? So like, I don't know, 5-10 minutes later, I clear it off. And he's off. And that my foreman comes, like, what are you doing? I'm like, I had to move these concrete because it was blocking the thing. And he was like, well, stop fucking around, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, well, I wouldn't be fucking around if the fucking idiot didn't just leave this shit right in the middle of the driveway. He's like, I left it there. I'm like, well, you're a fucking idiot. Like, you had the pallet, if you were able to get the pallet off here, why would you just leave it in the middle of the roadway? All you had to do was turn the fucking machine to the left or right to get, you know what I mean? Like, don't come at me like that. So the next day I was moving concrete because I had to make something called thrust blocks, where it's just whenever there's a 90-degree turn for underground water, because the water, there's so much pressure to it, we put concrete behind the 90s. So it just hits against the thing so it doesn't blow out the fitting.
Yeah.
So I was moving concrete bags to set those up. And I had a question and I asked him, I was like, hey, dude, blah, 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 blah. And his first response was just shut the fuck up. And I'm like, all right, I'll shut the fuck up, right? So I go, keep moving, doing my thing. And then he asks me something and I just tell him, shut the fuck up. That's all I reply, right? And then he goes off. I'm like, bro, what do you want from me? Like, I tried this morning to be chill and that was your first response. And he went off or whatever. So it was just back and forth like that throughout a lot of it. And so later on that week, this was like a fairly new crew that we had been working with because there's other parts to this story, but that's not important. So it was a really cool crew, and we all busted our ass. And I had told him one day, because one of the dudes had this really fucking cool, because he loved camping and off-roading. So he had a Tundra, I think it was, and he set up the back to where he built like a little plywood thing. So he would roll out a mattress that he would always take on the weekends.
Oh shit!
And under it, he had a pull-out fucking like drawer, and he had like a little camp stove. And I'm like, dude, that's dope. And he's like, you could barbecue. He's like, I barbecue off all the time. And I'm like, so what if on Friday, if I brought carne asada, we would barbecue for lunch? And that was our plan. So I told my foreman and this other one dude who was up his ass and shit, like, hey, this is the plan. Are you cool with it? He's like, yeah, I don't care. So we did that and we did it. And I told him, like, hey, the food's ready. Like, let's go get food. My foreman, he's like, oh no, we're going to go get lunch. I'm like, are you sure we have food? And he's like, no. I'm like, all right, whatever. You don't want to eat that shit. So we had all that stuff, right? And then later on after that day, because he kind of gave us a little bit of extra time for, to make the food, but he also used it as an excuse to take a longer lunch himself, because our lunch was half an hour. And then he's like, just take 45 minutes. But he didn't show up till like about an hour 15 after, which was whatever. We were back at it. And we're going a little bit like harder than usual because we felt bad for taking so much time and shit like that. And long story short, they get here, they get back, and they start doing their thing. And the other dude, he's technically not a journeyman, but we consider him a journeyman. That went with him to lunch and stuff, was always up his ass. It was already towards the end of the day, and I was putting it's a ABS, it's a type of plastic pipe, water pipe in the trenches, and we glue it together, right? And so they're pretty big. It's like 3-inch diameter pipe. And so when you're putting, even if it's normal PVC, when you put the pieces in together, you're supposed to hold it in, because the suction that it creates, if you just let it go, it'll slowly start to push out of the fitting again.
Oh shit!
So
okay.
It won't sit correctly into the fitting. So, you push it in and you hold it for like 10, 15 seconds, and then you can leave it alone to dry naturally. So I was doing that. And I just made a connection, and that dude, it was time to roll up, which means get your shit together so we can start getting it ready to go home. He's like, hey, roll up. And I'm like, all right, cool. I just fitted this fitting, so give me a second. And he's like, I said roll up. And there was another dude behind me. And I'm like, I heard you, bro. Like, chill. Like, just give me a second. I just glued this. And he said it again. And I said something under my breath. And he said something like, oh, you sure have a lot to say, don't you? And at that point, like the 10, 15 seconds was up. So I let it go and I stood up. I'm like, I have a shitload to say. And if you want to talk about it, we can. But after we roll up, and then we'll talk about it outside because if you're going to throw it down, don't throw it down on the job site. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Once you're on the street, that's fine. And so I told him that.
Also after hours, don't fucking do it.
Told him that, and he immediately walked off, and nothing came of it, right? And that's kind of a condensed version. It got a lot more heated than that. Like, it was the dude behind me. He was like, I thought he was going to come in the ditch and start swinging at you.
Fuck me, dude.
So I'm like, that's fine. Like, whatever. But that's why you try to make it specific off the job site. All right. So later on that day when I'm home, the owner of the company calls me. He's like, oh, I heard, you're having some problems with blah, blah, blah. And at that point, I'm like, you know what? Yeah, I could have handled it better. So I told him, like, you know what? You're right. I'm sorry. I lost my temper, blah, blah, blah. I'll just keep my head down and we'll, I won't. And he's like, no, we can't. That's not how a good workplace functions. Nothing gets done that way, which to his credit. All right, cool. And he's like, what happened? Like, you tell me your side of it. So I explained it because after he told me what he heard, and the first thing I said is like, all right, it all started for me was the first thing I asked so-and-so, my foreman, his response to me was shut the fuck up. And he goes like, did he really tell you that? I'm like, yes. He's like, okay. Like, I don't mean to cut you off, but that's all I want to hear right now. So he hung up. An hour later, he called me back. He's like, you're not going back to that job site anymore. And from then on, I did not work with them. And the very few instances I did, they took special care to keep us apart, because I don't know what he told them, but they made it seem like if I was allowed near them, I was gonna like kill them or something. I don't know what the fuck they told them, but it was like really weird the way they no one else had a problem with me, and everyone was like, what happened? That it's like, and I just told them, and I even had them some of the other dudes that were at that job site, they were like, this is legit what happened. Like, we don't know why they're being like so extreme about it. It's because one of the other dudes that was, again, it's all about politics. Another one of the dudes that was kind of setting himself up to become like the superintendent of like of everything. He was the one that helped get that foreman I didn't get along with in, right? So when I started, I ended up being placed with another foreman who was kind of like the superintendent before that.
Mm-hmm.
And I always just described it as Game of Thrones, where like I chose the sides of the Starks where the other ones were the Lannisters, and I got the wrong house. I got
Yeah.
the house that was being cleaned out, and that's what was happening. The people he ended up getting pushed out too. You know what I mean? I chose the wrong side, and it was because he was fucking cool to me. Like, he was cool to all of us. You know what I mean? Like, it was just, he was very much, he was old union, so he still functioned that way. Where this dude, he just didn't. It was like work. The job needs to get done.
Yeah.
And the other thing too is like when jobs get done quick, fast, and sometimes under budget, the foreman gets
the bonus. Yeah.
you know what I mean. So it's
down.
so it's one of those things.
Yeah.
It's and I every time I tell that story, there's a lot more flair. This doesn't seem like the podcast for it because
Yeah.
I'm not trying to embellish anything.
Yeah.
But it did get to a point where, like, and for all my bluster and stuff like that, I'm not honestly, like, by nature a violent person.
Mm.
Yeah, I say violent things and I may have violent tendencies, but I'm not one to fight.
Yeah.
It's just not my thing. But goddamn, I was ready to throw down with that day because it had been nonstop for like 2-3 weeks. And like I said, I tried being cool with the fucking the carne asada. I tried, like, you know, I kept trying to just fucking push past that shit, and it was just shit where it's like, not saying that I was doing everything because I wasn't, but it's like for what both of them were doing compared to what everyone else was doing and the amount of bitching they were doing, I wasn't the only one that was fed up.
Yeah.
I was just the only one that was willing to fucking snap back.
Yeah, but if you're saying that it's that sort of like environment where it's like the faster the job gets done, the more under budget it goes, then that's the reason why they're on your ass about it and stuff like that. Which is like, I feel like it's a very inadequate way to manage, you know, people in that sense, because like you need to fucking like pay your people. You get me? Like, like you reward them for fucking like, you know, finishing the job like faster or under budget by giving them bonus, or, you know, fucking pay them ahead, give them more pay, you know, because they are fulfilling this shit. But
like the one foreman, real quick, the one foreman that I told you eventually got pushed out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
He would tell me, you know, back when he was in the union and stuff. So when we, especially if we're renovating like an old place, when we have to demo out the existing plumbing, that copper, the foreman gets to keep it.
Oh shit.
So they can recycle it, and that's a chunk of change for them.
Yeah.
He would tell me that, you know, depending on the job, it's like how the job went and how rough it was or the circumstances, like 9 times out of 10, he would turn in the money. And then like on a day, you know, when it was comfortable enough, he would take out all the dudes to like, well, at the time, like strip clubs and shit or bars, and just gets rounds with all the copper money and shit like that, where like people don't do that anymore. They just take it for themselves. You know what I mean? It's just, I get it. Like, I do get it, but it's like, you got to also understand, like, the people working under you see that shit.
Yeah.
You know? And that does color the way they perceive you. You know what I mean? But and just like any other job and stuff, there are, again, the cliques and there's the nepotism and stuff like that. So you're never going to escape it. Like, the best advice I got was, you're there to work, not make friends.
Yeah.
If you make friends, whatever.
That's cool.
But, and this was what I was so specifically about going into you're there to work, not make friends. Be careful, because it's very political. So I mean, look, I got kind of brushed aside from that other job because, like I said, I kind of chose the wrong side. You know what I mean? I chose the losing side. So you're going to find that, I would imagine, at almost any place of employment.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know?
But I think this is a good point to stop it.
Yeah, that went a lot quicker than I thought.
It did, definitely did. Is there anything you want to plug in?
No, not really. Just the podcast, I guess.
Well, that is the end of this.
Wait, what about you? You're not gonna plug anything?
I am.
Oh, okay.
I'm going through like my outro. Jesus, you just fucking ruined it.
Look, it's my episode. I dictate how things go.
Yeah, this is the end of the episode. You can follow us at on Twitter at I was gonna say my shit at IB2W pod. Leave us a comment or post a question or whatever. Just tag us and I'll get back to you whenever I can. You can follow me on Twitter at Pro Chubby Chaser, and on Blue Sky Chubby Chaser Pro. I'm also streaming on Twitch, Chubby Chaser Pro, and I have content uploaded into YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. Just look up Chubby Chaser Pro. But that is it for this episode, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
All right, have a good night.
Yes, have a good one. Intro outro song is Wah Game Loop by Kevin MacLeod
of Incompetech.com, licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 4.0, http://creativecommons.org/licenses/by/4.0/